Thank you very much, Dilip Bhai, and I really appreciate all the efforts which you are doing under the banner of Churchgate CP Study Circle.
Thank
I
you.
have been seeing very closely, observing since last year the way the Churchgate Study Circle is functioning. It's really remarkable job. I know various members and past conveners also who have made the foundation of Churchgate
Yes,
Study Circle. But you have taking that foundation and base, you have really reached to a greater heights, I can
thank you.
see,
Thank you.
and really worked so hard and reaching out to the members and doing so many study circle meetings with very relevant topics and good speakers.
Yes,
So really compliments to Dilip
thank,
Bhai
thank you
from
very much. Thank
from
you.
me and both the speakers, both my panelists. I have seen the young breed like Jigar Bhai, Manish Bhai, and Parag Bhai. They are taking what you have said, taking a charge of all this technology and other
Yes,
stuff. So really, continuously we were coordinating with all these, coordinators, or we can say at that entire team, so
yes,
that entirely this program, this study circle meeting also becomes, in a proper manner. Actually, today morning we were not knowing what will happen about this power. We don't know what is to be, what will happen, what we have to see further in 2020. No doubt we have already started with this COVID coronavirus, and now today I really don't remember when last this type of power failure has happened.
yes.
But we have to actually, we are now making ourselves so strong to tackle with everything.
Mm,
Whatever things are coming, hurdles are coming, and so I correlate this with the ethics. So our foundation and the base is so strong with the ethics. So we are also, following all these ethics in such a way कि whatever things are coming up, hurdles, we are capable, we are making ourselves capable to, fight with everything. So I request
thank you.
Chetan to please share the screen of presentation. Friends, we have our group, we have made lot of studies, around more than 100 hours of studies, and done research on this code of ethics, basically this new code of ethics which have made applicable from July 2020. And we have done lot of research, bifurcated areas, and regularly we are, once in a week or once in a 10 days, we are regularly coordinating with each other, doing Zoom meetings, so that we can share. And after that, we have also come out with some case studies. And when we read the case laws, out of these case laws which have already, the judgments are out in last several recent past, on that basis we have made the case studies, we have quoted the judgments also in these case studies. So this topic, if there is a GST topic or taxation topic or any other topic of professional interest, the attendance and interest in the session is very very huge. But when it comes to the session by study circle on code of ethics, the attendance is not that much, which is there in the professional subject. So but by doing this, all those research and making the presentation with case studies as live as possible, we try to do as interesting as possible, and try to capture all our practical problems, like if NOC is not coming, what will happen, and we have to communicate with our previous auditor, how to do advertisement. So all these case studies, around 10 case studies we have taken in our presentation. So friends, if you have any question, you can please give to your the coordinators. At the end we will also try to cover all the questions by giving answers, appropriate answers. But to begin with, I request Chintan to go ahead with the slide. Friends, everyone is saying ki, means our honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji has said the signature of a chartered accountant is more valuable than a signature of a prime minister also. So why it is like that? So it is only because on the way, on the audit what we are doing and the sign what we are putting, actually, a lot of stakeholders, people invest into the company, and that is only because of what we are auditing and what we are certifying and what signature we are putting. So this is a value of a signature of a chartered accountant, and our profession is based on the two fundamental principles of ethics and integrity. In the society also, chartered accountants are highly reputed and always seen that they are following high level of ethics and integrity. So if anything happens wrong in any company, the first one everyone will see who is the auditor. And because auditors, the chartered accountants are expected to maintain high level of ethics and integrity. So based on, as rightly said by Dilip Bhai, it is in 1963. See, our Chartered Accountant Act has become in 1949, and in 1963, this Code of Ethics have come into play. So why this need of ethics? So as such, all the acts, rules, regulations are there, but this is ethics are required because nothing should go wrong, and if anything is going wrong, then we have a separate set of these ethical standards. And I know after giving exam, CA final exam, hardly any member go through this code of ethics. So let us go through this, the structure. So we have divided our presentation, introduction, which I will cover, then conceptual framework, what fundamental principles, threats, and safeguards, and what are the substantive and structural changes, then the last previous code of ethics, and then new revised code of ethics. So Harsh and Chintal will run through everything, and case studies, as I have told you, more than 10 case studies, when 10 case studies broadly, but in that also number of cases we have taken, so it may happen more than 20 case studies also. So next slide please. So, friends, code of ethics means moral value, accountability to one's conscience, and every profession has its own code of ethics. So, it is a habit which one overall culture, and in the spirit of things that ICI requires its members to comply with these principles, which while performing the duty. So, next slide, please. So one may doubt as to why ethics when there is a law. So to ensure the credibility which is foundation of our profession, ethics is required to encourage people to maintain rightful professional conduct. Though law is mainly to punish non-compliance of conduct prescribed, ethics is thus more positive character, and following ethic code of ethics is prevention from contravention of law. So it is a basis of law. Next slide. So friends, I will give my some practical experience also. Last year, I have very closely observed how this disciplinary committee is functioning. Last year, up till beginning of the last year, about 10 years cases which were come into which were complaints have come into disciplinary committee. 10 years cases were pending, but in last year huge disciplinary committee meetings have happened, and this all those old cases were concluded, and hardly 3 years cases were pending now up to end of the last year. And now also this disciplinary committee is working very fast, and online DC meetings are happening. And the cases, actually when we hear, the way the cases are coming, it is very surprising that this also members are doing. So it is once that pressure, if any any notice is coming, it is becoming very difficult to handle those type of notice, and stand in the disciplinary meeting, and DC meeting. Friends, in DC meeting there are what happens, it is a 5 member bench, where three members are council members. Those are central council members, and two are represent government nominees. So there is a member bench. These DC committees are, and accordingly the cases are handled. And we will see in the schedules what type of and how, there are two types of discipline punishments are coming. We will see in detail how this is. As regards to code of ethics, see, friends, our code of ethics has already said it is started from 1963, and it has gone in revised in various levels. And now it is like we have our institute, like other countries institute, CA institute, all are members of IFAC, that is International Federation of Accountants. And the IFAC has established ISBA, that is International Ethics Standard Board of Accountants, to function as an independent standard setting body. And recently, to make our ethics standard on ethics comparable with ISBA, what has been designed by IFAC, we have revised that, looking at our culture of India. But now our standards on ethics are comparable and are at par with the standards which are ISBA, that is, which is structured by IFAC. So, friends, ethics in accountancy is which is designed by ICAI in line with the standards designed by IFAC, that is ISBA. It also fosters international debates on ethical issues faced by accountants. And ISBA encourages member bodies to adopt high standards of ethics for their members and promote good ethical practices globally, right? So it develops, and guidance for many professional accountants. Next. So ICAI complies with ethics since inception. So Chartered Accountant Act is enacted by Parliament in 1949, and for regulation of profession and for the purpose of carrying out its objects of the act, and rules and regulations have been enacted in the year 1988, and two schedules are defined where the misconduct is. There are two schedules where misconduct is defined. So this is like, entire structure. So the Chartered Accountant Act, that is precursor to Code of Ethics. Code of Conduct for members, that is first edition in November 1963. The Code of Conduct was called earlier as Code of Ethics for the first time in ninth edition, that is 2001. And Code of Ethics 2009 was the 11th edition of code, and it was first edition after convergence with IFAC, that is in 2009. And now we have revised Code of Ethics, that is 2019, 12th edition of this code, which is applicable from 1st July 2020. So these two schedules, now let us run through these two schedules. Friends, there are two schedules. Schedule 1, first schedule is internal to profession, and second schedule is outsiders are affected. The broad, I can give you one example where the broad division can be made for how it is internal to profession. Like, for example, if communication with the previous auditor, and we have to take the no objection certificate from the previous auditor, for if we first time when we are getting audit, which is signed by earlier audited by another chartered accountant. So if it is there, if it is not there, then it is internal to profession. Now second schedule is outsiders are affected. So if there is some material misstatement in the audit report which is issued by a member, so and it is a listed company where there are many stakeholders, and in that case the on that basis the outsiders are also impacted. So in that case their penalty, everything, prosecution will be done in second schedule. So when it is an internal to in first schedule, the penal consequences are less as compared to the second schedule. the what are the penal consequences that are also mentioned in this code of ethics. So if it is a first schedule, if your misconduct is coming in the first schedule, then what are the penal consequences? So it can be, the member has been debarred for a member is, name of the member is removed for say 3 months or 6 months from the register of members of the ICAI, or imprisonment up to 3 months, or up to, it is a small number of years imprisonment, or a penalty up to 1 lakh rupees. However, if it is a second schedule, then punishment are huge. The member, the name of the member is removed permanently, debarred permanently from the register of the members, or it can be, up to 5 lakh, and imprisonment is also number of years are more. However, repatriation is available in both the cases, whether it is first schedule or second schedule. So in case of first schedule, friends, professional misconduct in relation to CA in practice, CA in service, and in general, and other misconduct in relation to all the members generally are given. And in second schedule also, CA in practice generally and other misconduct are given. And we will go through broadly the clauses, what type of misconducts are there and where it is punishments are coming. So next, so part one, clause numbers one to this part one, which is member in practice, applicable to member in practice. And I believe majority of the members of a study circle are member in practice. So if this in this specific clauses, the if it is not followed, then it will be a misconduct. So, clause number one says, if a member allows any person to practice in his name except his partner and employee who is a chartered accountant, then it is a professional misconduct, and a member will be, that member will be guilty of misconduct. Then, if a member pays any share or commission or brokerage to the person other than member of the institute, or his partner or retired partner is not is a guilty of misconduct, he is not allowed to do so. If a member is accepting the profit from a person who is not a member of the institute, so it is not allowed. He can share the profit, from the commission he can take only from the member of the institute, or profit sharing from the partner only. Then if a member enters into partnership with a person who is not a member of the institute, which is not allowed at present by the ICAI. Then if a member secures work from a person who is not his employee or partner, so then also it is a, he is a guilty of misconduct. Then if a member's, clause number 6 says, if a member solicits work by circular, advertisement, personal interview, etc., except to the extent allowed. You cannot do the advertisement. We have a detailed case study on advertisement, how a member can do, how, what not he can do. We'll go in, and see in detail at that time, okay, what is allowed and what not is allowed. Then advertises his professional services. If it is not allowed, then he is a guilty of professional misconduct. Then if a member accepts audit work without first communicating with the previous auditor in writing, so whatever we are saying in our general parlance, it is NOC from the previous auditor. It is not mentioned in schedule you have to take NOC. It is mentioned that communication with the previous auditor in writing. Right, next slide. So then in that case he has to communicate. So we have detailed case study on, communication with the previous auditor, how it is to be done. If you are not getting NOC, what is to be done. So we will see in detail that also. And if a member accepts audit work without first ascertaining that requirements of section 225 of Companies Act are complied with, is also misconduct. If a member accepts professional assignment where fees are based on percentage of profits or contingent upon finding of the result, it is a professional misconduct. However, the under this code of ethics, relating fees relating to management consultancy in relation to project finance, in that case the percentage charging of fees on a percentage basis is allowed. That is an exception. However, it is otherwise it is professional misconduct. If a member engages in any other business or occupation, barring few exceptions, then also it is a professional misconduct. A member under HUF also, we have a specific case study relating to HUF, whether a member can do a business in HUF, or a member can be a partner or a director in a company, separate company. So that case study we have, we will deal this into detail. If a member allows a person who is not his partner or other person who is not a member of the institute to sign on his behalf any financial statements, that is balance sheet, P&L account, report or financial statement, that member is guilty of misconduct. So this we have seen for the members in practice. So now a member, if a person is doing job, so in for him, if he undertakes the share, he undertakes to share his emoluments of employment. So if you are getting some employment and he's sharing, there is some condition and he's sharing his emolument of employment, then it is that person who is doing job is a guilty of misconduct. If that person who is doing job accepts any part of his fees or profits from any lawyer, CA, broker engaged by the company, customer as a commission or a gratification, means for giving the work of that company. If he says, yeah, your fees is this much, but you are getting this much work, so you share me 10% out of that fees, then that person is guilty of misconduct. So this part 3 is applicable to all the members. So whether it is a member in practice or not, would be guilty of misconduct if he not being a fellow acts as a fellow, if he is writing FCA, even if he has not FCA, or if only FCA can sign the balance sheet and he is signing, so then he is a guilty. It does not supply information called by the institute council or its committee, director discipline, board of directors, DC, etc. So not giving information in a timely manner is also, a member is a guilty of misconduct. He gives information knowing it to be false while inviting professional work, responding to tenders, inquiries, or publishing write-up. So giving false information at all these places are also, that member is guilty of misconduct. Next slide. So, and these are general again, other misconduct, whether a member is in practice or not, he is guilty by, if he is guilty by any civil or criminal court for an offense which is punishable with imprisonment for a term not exceeding 6 months, or he brings disrepute to the profession or institute as a result of his action. So if he is saying something wrong about the institute, and if it is bringing disrepute to the institute, so then also he is acting in such a way which will bring disrepute to the institute, that is also, the member is then also that member is guilty of misconduct. So this is first schedule, which is internal to the members and the institute. We'll go through the second schedule, where the punishments are more harsh, and these are the where outsiders other than chartered accountants and institute are also impacted. So in that case, so a member who is, whether in practice, would be guilty in practice or not, would be guilty of, I think it is this part 1 is only for members in practice. Let's see. If it discloses information acquired in the course of professional engagement to any, so disclosure, so confidentiality is very important. So disclosure of information other than in the course of professional engagement to any person other than his client. It certifies any report of financial statements unless the examination has been done by him or his partner or employee or by any other CA in practice. So, in general, we always say थप्पा मार के दिया है. So थप्पा मार के दिया है वो मालूम पड़ता है, and a member is guilty of misconduct. Gives an impression that he vouches for accuracy of forecast. Impression he is giving that he vouches for accuracy of the forecast. Forecast means CMA if it is signed, and he accurate, he is certifying that, then also is a guilty of misconduct. There is that also we have a separate case study, and we'll deal, yeah, whether we can sign the project report, whether a member in practice can sign a project report, and if we allowed, how it is. So we have a separate case study, and SA 3200 is there. So we will see that in detail. Then if a member expresses his opinion on financial statements of any business in which he or his firm or partner has a substantial interest, then also he is guilty of misconduct. If a member fails to disclose a material fact which is not disclosed in the financial statement, but the disclosure of which is necessary, because if it is disclosed, then the member, the perception of the member for that entity will change. And if it is not disclosed, then also that member is a guilty of misconduct. If a member fails to report a material misstatement, is a guilty of misconduct. And if a member does not exercise due diligence or is grossly negligent, various cases are actually noted in gross negligence criteria. I have seen that lot of cases comes in grossly negligent. Member are not aware only what sometimes they are doing. If a member fails to obtain sufficient information which is necessary for expression of opinion, just financial statement signing is not necessary, but it may happen that some information is very important which is not known by the auditor while doing the audit, and later on, and on that basis lot of, that is very material, and which impacts the sometimes going concern of that entity also, and if it is not disclosed, then the member is a guilty of misconduct. If a member fails to invite attention to any material departure from generally accepted audit procedures, and if a member fails to keep monies of the client other than a money meant to expended in a separate bank account, there is a practice followed by a lot of CA practicing members कि client का GST है या client का tax है, that CAs are paying, but for that it is specifically mentioned कि they can they collect in a same bank account where the firm account is there. We have a separate case study how to collect the money of the client and how to, when to pay. So separate case study we will deal in detail about this also. Part 2 is a member will be guilty of misconduct in schedule 2 part 2 if he contravenes any provision of this act, means CA act or CA regulation, being an employee of firm of a company or firm or any other person discloses confidential information, and if he includes in any document to be submitted to the institute council, it committees, etc., any information knowing to be false. So any false information, if it is given to the institute or the council, and he defalcates or embezzles money, then also is a guilty of misconduct. Nowadays, lot of times I have seen lot of queries are coming. When there are new fresh chartered accountants, they have not disclosed. They are also doing. They have also done some course along with CA. So after BCom, they are doing MCom or some company secretary, and that things are not disclosed to the institute. And then later on, what happens when they are filing the form for taking the membership, at that time it is seen that they are also a postgraduate or they have also acquired some another degree, and in that case then non disclosure of true information, in that case also, then member are 6 months they are not there is a penalty of 10,000 rupees, and they are not immediately given the membership. They are given membership after 6 months. This is the practical case study which is happening. I have seen last 2 3 years which is happening. So be careful about all these things. A member, whether in practice or not, would be guilty of misconduct if he is held guilty by any other, by any civil or criminal court of an offense which is punishable with imprisonment exceeding 6 months. He is guilty of misconduct here under ICI rules, Code of Ethics, under Part 3, Schedule 2. So this is the overview when the member will become the guilty under any part, any schedule of guilty of misconduct. Friends, what is a professional and other misconduct? So sections 22 specifically defines the expression professional or other misconduct, which shall be deemed to include any act or omission specified in any of the schedule, but nothing in this section shall be construed as to limit or abridge, means reduce in any way the power conferred or duty cast on director discipline under subsection 21 to inquire into the conduct of any member of the institute under any circumstances. So disciplinary directorate, DC directorate has all the power to inquire into if any notice. There is a form 1 which is to be filed, which is filed to the directorate discipline to lodge the complaint against any member, and he can inquire into, once that form comes to the disciplinary directorate. So then the director will actually first check what is the issue, and if he feels that issue can be sorted, the inquiry is not required to happen. They will sort on, means one internally only, and the notice also may not go. And once they might require some more documents, they will look into it, and they feel ki it is not case for the disciplinary, then they may not go into case also, complain into more detail. But if they find the disciplinary directorate finds that this is a case and to be looked into, so they will actually go into it, and then the complaint is the case will happen. Next slide. So, professional or other misconduct. While performing our duties as a professional, the knowledge of laws and other rules, regulations affecting a particular assignment is fundamental. So, one should know what they are doing. These are the fundamental duty of chartered accountant practicing. However, apart from domain knowledge, one also needs to constantly bear in mind the provision of CA Act regulation, technical pronouncements of ICAI, and also few notification of ICAI. Violation of these pronouncements doubtless is a professional misconduct. So sometimes it happens that we are regularly doing the audits, tax work, which is we are doing for some entity for the client since last so many years. But now if they want to do the forensic audit for some of the area, they want to do some detailed investigation, and that work also comes to the same chartered accountant. But that chartered accountant member who is giving other services should have the domain knowledge of a forensic audit also. And if they are not having and they are conducting, so they, what is a better option? They should hire another chartered accountant if they are not having that domain knowledge. So it is very important that you should have that domain knowledge, domain knowledge for that particular domain. Then only you have to provide the service. Otherwise, better to hire the another chartered accountant who is having that domain area. Along with that, you should also update with your chartered accountant act day by day what they are saying, what they are, regularly notifications are coming, what it is coming. That also updation is very much important, because under audit also, like 700, 701 reporting requirements, lot of new things are coming. Next slide. So misconduct and under any other circumstances has to be determined on case to case basis, keeping in view the facts of circumstances of each case. Fraud, intentions to deceive, and committing an act which affects the public or society at large could be in and the ambit of the misconduct. Following are few examples of misconduct under any circumstances by member. Conviction by a competent court for an offense involving moral turpitude, retention of the books, not giving the books, then material misrepresentations, publishing advertisement with malified intentions to malign any person, using objectionable, abusive language. So all these are coming under misconducts under any other. These are general thing which one has to follow. The broad comparison, this is last slide, I think, by me. So 2009 and new code of ethics, which has come from with effect from 1st July 2020. So part A, now first time we have three volumes. Earlier there are only two parts, part A and part B. So part A based on ISBA code, suitably incorporated, and part B is based on domestic provisions governing the members. And now we have three volumes. So a third volume earlier which was never there, and that comprises of updated with all disciplinary case laws in detail. One can go through that, which is available on the website of day. We have a separate website for disciplinary, for this code of ethics. So all these case laws are there in volume 3. Volume 1 is revised counterpart of Part A 2009 edition based on ISBA Code of Ethics 2018, and Volume 2 is revised counterpart of Part B. So first time we have this third volume. Next slide. So that now we have the structure of Code of Ethics 2019. New Code of Ethics is like that. Part 1 applicable to all professional accountants. We will have to comply with code, fundamental principle, and conceptual framework, which will be taken by Hirsch. Part 2, which is professional accountants in service. We are telling in service. However, in ISBA, that is IFAC, they are saying in business, professional accountants in business, which is means service. And part 3 is applicable for professional accountants in public practice. And international independent standards are part 4A and 4B. So 4A is section 400 to 899, which is for audit and review. They are also in detail are there. We have taken some case studies for them from them, that also. And part 4B, independence for other assurance engagement, which is like I have mentioned you about, if you are doing assurance, signature on project finance report or CMA. So all those things. So these are all glossaries, no doubt it is undoubtedly applicable for all the professional accountants. So this is a broad structure. Now Hirsch will take, through the conceptual framework and fundamental principles. So please take over, Hirsch.
Yeah. Thank you, Preeti Madam. At the outset, I would like to thank Churchgate CP Study Circle for inviting us to present our views on this interesting topic of Code of Ethics. Although very theoretical, and most of us might have studied only in CA final exams, post that we have never revisited this topic, but it's a good way to at least rebrush our conceptual principles about Code of Ethics. So coming to Code of Ethics, Chintan, next slide. Code of Ethics has a fundamental principle. It has set out fundamental principles. These fundamental principles are basically a standard of professional behavior which is expected from a chartered accountant. The qualities which are expected from a chartered accountant. This reflects actually profession's recognition in the public interest responsibility. There are 5 fundamental principles, as you can see on the screen. These are integrity, objectivity, professional competence and due care, confidentiality, and professional behavior. We will just take through in detail within the next later slides. Next slide. So first one is integrity. What does integrity means is being straightforward and honest and being transparent in all the professional relationships and professional assignments. It basically means to have a very fair dealing with all your professional assignments. Second one is objectivity. Objectivity means any opinion, any judgment of a chartered accountant should be unbiased and should be without any conflict of interest. Any bias shouldn't have any undue influence on your professional judgment. Third one is professional competence and due care. Professional competence means having a requisite professional knowledge and skill which is expected from a professional accountant by all the stakeholders of a chartered accountant. Stakeholders means regulators, bankers, investor community at a large, which expects a chartered accountant to possess a professional knowledge for any assignments. The fourth one is confidentiality. Next slide. Confidentiality. Confidentiality means obviously by the name it can be explained as not disclosing any important information of a client unless there is a legal duty, a legal or a professional duty on a chartered accountant to disclose such information. For example, peer review process. In peer review, we all know that we have to share our files, our documents with our peers. Also, confidentiality is an attribute which not only a professional accountant has to possess, but also at a firm level, every person of an engagement team should be having this attribute of confidentiality and should not disclose any particular important information of a client to any outsider. Also, such information should not be used for professional accountants' own personal or professional benefit. And the last one is professional behavior. Professional behavior means you should comply with all the relevant laws in the country which is domicile of. Just to give an example, breaking traffic rules or breaking society rules is also not expected from integrated person like chartered accountant. So any CA should behave in a professional manner. Now, these are 5 fundamental principles of code of ethics. Now, sometimes in our day-to-day work, we might face some challenges where we have to comply with one fundamental principles, but for that purpose, we might not be complying with another fundamental principles, and that brings us to the threats in complying with fundamental principles. Now, what are these threats? There are in all 5 threats which are summed up in code of ethics. Now, as a professional accountant, our first job is to identify such threats in our professional assignments. If there is any threat, then how to evaluate and how to address such threats is also a responsibility of a professional accountant. First threat is self-interest threat. Self-interest means having an interest, financial or other interest, having an interest in the business of a client. Say, for example, investment in shares is actually a very classic example of having a financial interest in a client's business. Now, if any person is having some kind of a financial or other interest in a business, then obviously his professional judgment would be compromised and there might be an issue of integrity and objectivity. Just to give you another example, quoting a very low professional fees just to get an entry into some group or some client's business is also one kind of a self-interest threat. Second threat is self-review threat. Self-review means reviewing your own work. Say, for example, in many CA firms, in many small and medium practitioners firm where there are account preparation and auditing of the same client happening in at the same firm level. Although the teams might be different, the departments might be different, but it is happening at the same firm level. So at such point of time, there might be a self-review threat that you are reviewing your own professional work, which has been done by the same team or different team under a same firm level. Coming to third threat, which is advocacy threat. Advocacy means advocating any position or a client's business to such level that it might hamper your objectivity. Say, for example, if a professional accountant is representing a client in front of income tax authority, and he might have taken some stand of that business, while auditing the same accounts, his professional judgment might be compromised, having the same case of income tax representation, and probably he might be having a non-independent or a non-objective opinion about that audit. So this is called advocacy threat. Also, favoring any client's position or lobbying any client's position in front of any regulator is also one kind of advocacy threat. The next threat is familiarity threat. In case of a SMP, small or giving any professional services to SMC, small and medium companies, because many a times most of our clients, most of the clients of SMPs are through relatives or are through some familiarity which has been gone through by many years. So there might be some kind of a sympathy or some kind of a what do you call very lenient approach towards any kind of a disclaimer or any kind of a differences in the opinion of auditor or auditor bit and client. So this kind of familiarity threat might be coming due to long association or a personal relationship with the client. And the last threat is intimidation threat. Intimidation means due to deterrence in providing any financial opinion or any professional consultancy opinion. Just to give an example, say a professional accountant is an auditor of a political party. While giving any negative remark or any modification of opinion, there might be some kind of intimidation on that professional accountant by a political party. Also, a threat of getting a client dismissed because of differences of opinion, the client leaving you and appointing some other chartered accountant is also one kind of a intimidation threat. Now, these are the 5 threats. As I said earlier, the first step of threat is to identify threats. Second step is to evaluate and address such threats. So how to do that? There are safeguards which have been defined or what you call promulgated in Code of Ethics. Now, it's actually not possible for me to cover each and every safeguard in this short period of time. But broadly, what we have done is we have classified safeguards into 3 different categories. The first safeguard is at a very broad macro level, which is created by the profession, legislation, or a regulation. Now, these safeguards are applicable on all chartered accountants, be it in practice, be it in industry, or be it in business. Any chartered accountant has to somewhere or other has to apply these safeguards to to bring down the threats at an acceptable level. The first one is educational training and experience requirements. A very classic example of this is the CP webinar, which we all are adhering to right now, is also one kind of a safeguard to comply with professional competence and due care. Also, professional standards which have been issued by ICAI, say standards on auditing, standards on review engagement, and all those standards are also giving a help while promulgating all safeguards for reducing a threat to an acceptable level. Some esteemed procedures of ICAI like peer review, quality review are also an example of safeguards where external review is done by a legally empowered third party of our reports, returns, and certificates. Next slide. Coming to a second level of safeguards, what we have classified is at a safeguard which are created in the work environment, which is more firm specific safeguards. Now, in this case, where a firm, at a firm level, where all the assignments are done for assurance or audit engagement, it is a basic requirement of a firm to educate all its employees, all its chartered accountants, and all its partners regarding the fundamental principles and how to comply with Code of Ethics. If there are any threats, then how to apply safeguards. One very good procedure is designating a member from a senior management who will be responsible for overseeing the adequate functioning of the firm's quality control system. Now, a best way to do all this safeguard is to document it. Chintan, next slide. Now, how to document this is professional brothers who are into hardcore audit practice might be knowing that SQC 1, the Standards on Quality Control 1, gives a proper framework for documenting the policies and procedures which can be adhered to while complying with the Code of Ethics. Now, what this document should include is basically all the policies and procedures which address say ethical requirements, independence policies, even leadership responsibilities which should be undertaken while accepting any new assurance engagements or while conducting any assurance engagements of our old clients. Some of the examples are given in this slide for requiring compliance with the fundamental principles to monitor and manage the reliance on revenue received from a single client. Say, for example, if a single client's audit fees is getting above 50% or whatever any percent, then there might be some kind of a advocacy threat on that. There might be some kind of an intimidation threat on that audit firm. Also, using different partners and different engagement teams with separate reporting lines. any assurance team should not get into tax representation or tax consultancy because of some kind of a firm review self review threat. Coming to third level of safeguards, which is at a very micro level, at a work environment level, particularly of any assignment or of any business, a client. The first one is involving any additional professional accountant to review the work done or otherwise advise as necessary. What we generally call as second opinion, to get any second opinion on any issue of, for which a partner or a assignment team is not well versed with or is not well equipped with. Better to get a second opinion on any such professional issue. Discussing ethical issues with those charged with governance of the client. Those charged with governance means where audit committee is appointed, then audit committee, otherwise the board of directors or the people who are doing the business. So discussing all such ethical issues, generally we do it in audit committee meetings or in board meetings. We give our independence policies and all those issues we generally communicate to those charged with governance. So even that is a safeguard as regard to work environment level. Also partner rotation, audit partner rotation, which is actually a phenomenon many people might have thought that Companies Act has brought in, but no, Code of Ethics earlier also used to give this recommendation of rotating a senior audit partner for engagement after a particular interval. Coming to next level of safeguards, these safeguards are created or should be embedded in client's system and procedures. Say, for example, a very classic example of this is auditor appointment. Whenever an appointment of auditor has to be done, it has to be by people other than management, that is shareholders, or any consultant or internal auditor also should be appointed by people other than management. So to keep that segregation of duties. Also assessing competence of a client's employees with their experience and the seniority to make any managerial decisions. This generally happens in case of tax representation, where many professional accountants get into such kind of decision making power. They get into the shoes of management, and there might be some kind of advocacy threat. So better to assess the competence and seniority of clients' employees, so that they can just help you out in tax representation cases. Also, there might be some internal procedures should be documented in the client's own systems and procedures for having some objective choices for for consultant or for professional accountants other than statutory auditors. Say, for example, a firm is a statutory auditor of a company, and that company wants to appoint some internal auditor for their company. The best practice is to have some proper internal audit procedure, procedure within the company, not rather asking or favoring any chartered accountant which is a firm or what you call associate of a statutory auditor. Next slide. So this is just a pictorial representation of what I said. The first step is obviously to identify a threat. Whenever if there is a threat for a new assignment or for an ongoing assignment, the second step is to evaluate that threat, that whether applying the safeguards, if that threat can be reduced to an acceptable level, then a person can accept this assignment. If by applying all the safeguards which are eligible, which are applicable with the professional accountant or with the firm, even after that the threats are not going to an acceptable level, it would be a better professional practice to decline that assignment. So this is what Code of Ethics gives a broad idea about threats and safeguards which has to be applied by a professional accountant while doing any professional assignment. Now the third part will be taken by my co-speaker Chintan Rambia. Thank you. Over to you, Chintan.
Chintan, yeah.
Yeah, Preeti ma'am, you want to
No,
share some views
please
or
go
we have
ahead.
to start?
Chintan, you go ahead, then we will compile everything.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Harsh. Thank you, Preeti ma'am. Thank you, Churchgate CP Study Circle, for having me here to express my views on Code of Ethics. Today was a very abnormal day. I'm sure, I don't know how this 2020 is going to go, but Code of Ethics 2019 was introduced again in 1st July 2020. So what I'm broadly covering here is comparing what was the Code of Ethics of 2009 and Code of Ethics of 2019. So what are the major substantive changes that have been introduced in 2019 edition of the Code of Ethics? Uh, these Code of Ethics, the 2019 Code of Ethics is applicable from 1st July 2020. Certain provisions were deferred from applicability from 1st July 2020. I will just cover those provisions. These are the first five major substantive changes that have occurred. The first provision was pertaining to NOCLAR. NOCLAR meaning that any responding to any non-compliance of laws and regulations. This was a big bang chain that has been introduced in 2019 Code of Ethics. But fortunately or unfortunately, this particular provision of has been deferred from being applicable from 1st July 2020. Second provision was pertaining to restriction on taxation services provided to audit clients. Uh, so again, certain taxation services, initially in 2009 Code of Ethics, there was no provision of prohibiting any providing taxation service to audit clients. However, in 2019, there have been certain restrictions on providing such taxation services to audit clients. There was no provision earlier to provide management responsibilities to the audit clients. Now there is certain prohibition that has been introduced in the 2019 Code of Ethics, wherein management responsibilities cannot be provided to the audit clients. Earlier in 2009 Code of Ethics, there was a recommendatory 40% restriction on fees to be provided from an audit client. Now that has been restricted to 15% on fees received from a single client, only if it is for received for consecutively for 2 years, and there is no restriction as such to receive that fees more than 15% from a single client. There is only a responsibility and duty to communicate to those charged with governance of the company. This particular provision also has been deferred for from applicability from 1st July 2020. There was no provision of duty on accountant in case of unintentional breach of independent standards. Initially, if knowingly or unknowingly there was a breach of the breach of independent standards, there was no provision as such to rectify that. But in the 2019 Code of Ethics, there has been provided some kind of leeway or some kind of provision to an accountant to rectify that unintentional breach of independent standards. There are new concepts which have been introduced in 2019 Code of Ethics, like key audit partners or public interest entities like PI entities, etc. So these are the major substantive changes that have been introduced in 2019 edition of the Code of Ethics. Uh, so as I was referring earlier, these are the provisions which have been deferred. First provision is pertaining to NOCLAR. Why I have highlighted these issues, that what are the substantive changes even though it has been deferred, is once these provisions have are implemented or are being made applicable or being with effect from date has been provided, these provisions will change the day-to-day working of a professional accountant, be it in practice or be it in service. So a NOCLAR is a big provision which a chartered accountant has to take care of. The fees of 40%, 50% also has been deferred to a future notified date. Tax restriction on taxes and service to audit clients also has been deferred to a future date, which will be notified in future. So we spoke about what was the substantive and big changes that have been introduced in 2019 edition. Now the structural changes, we'll go through the structural changes. What are the structural changes? Structural changes meaning, as Preeti man pointed out earlier, There are certain volumes that have been provided, volume 1, 2, 3, instead of only two parts in the earlier edition. Volume 1 pertaining to being a counterpart to part A of the earlier code of ethics, volume 2 being part of part B of the counterpart of earlier code of ethics. Volume 3 is just a summary of the updated case laws that have been occurring since past so many years, and have been compiled in under one edition. So this also is a major structural change that has happened in the 2019 edition. Additionally, in 2009 Code of Ethics, independence for assurance engagements was not there that much. That it was just a small para or a small thing that has been provided, which was not provided in Code of Ethics. It was outside of the Code of Ethics. The independence requirements has been introduced in 2019 Code of Ethics, and that also has been introduced for audit and review engagements and other assurance engagements as well. So while picking up an assignment, a chartered accountant first has to ensure and verify what is the nature of work that is undertaking. Whether it is an audit and review engagement, the independence requirements are different. If it is assurance, other assurance engagements, the independence standards or independence requirements for those particular assignments are different. Section for 400 to 800 have been provided in the volume 1 of the Code of Ethics 2019 edition, wherein these independence requirements are very much in detail have been provided. The independent standards have been recharacterized as international independent standards. These are the standards that have been provided, so you have to follow those independence standards. Earlier those were not the standards, it was just a recommendation and how to attain or achieve an independence. So now these have been introduced in the 2019 edition as international independence standards. The drafting, the earlier the words that were used in 2009 edition was should, which now has been replaced by shall. Should meaning it is in recommendatory nature, wherein a chartered accountant is recommended to follow a certain provision. Now with the change in drafting conventions to shall, uh, these have made more of a mandatory nature rather than just a recommendatory nature. The structuring of sections itself have been recharacterized and redesigned. A new pattern of structuring of sections is there. Firstly, a certain section is characterized as R, okay, designated with letter R, which means it is imposing an obligation to follow that section, and you have to mandatorily follow that particular section. And there are certain sections which have been uh, designated with letter A. Letter A meaning it is providing context, or it is providing any explanations or suggestions to follow that the sections which have been characterized as R. There is also an increased clarity provided for responsibility for firms or network firms or individual within the network firms, etc. So this is just a snapshot as to earlier what I was saying, that how these sections have been recharacterized, or the pattern of the section have been provided. R260.6, this is a particular section, meaning this section has to be mandatorily followed by all the professional accountants. 260.6 A1, A1, A2, these are the application material, meaning it is providing guidance as to how do you follow a particular requirement provided under the 2019 Code of Ethics. So here what institute has tried to do is also giving guidance as to how to follow a 2019 Code of Ethics. uh, it is like a spoon feeding thing, that this is a requirement, this is how do you follow that requirement. So it is a very easy or a very comprehensive thing that has been provided here in the 2019 Code of Ethics, wherein as soon as you read what is expected of a professional accountant, one can follow what can be done or what cannot be done. uh, as I mentioned earlier, that there is a mechanism of self correction provided for unintentional breach of code. So section 400.80 to section 480.89 of the volume 1 provides us the guidance as to what is the how do you self correct if there is an unintentional breach of code. As Harsh highlighted earlier, there are threats, there are safeguards to the threats, and how do you apply those safeguards in order to mitigate the threats. So on day-to-day practice, if you are have safeguards in place, so these kind of threats may crop up. And now 2019 Code of Ethics has given a small window of opportunity to self-correct that particular unintentional breach of the code. uh, it mentions steps in case there are any breach of independent standards. If a firm concludes that a breach of requirement in this pass has occurred, it shall take prescribed steps. Example, either end suspend or eliminate the interest that created the breach. I mean, stop the assignment altogether as soon as you come across that breach of code, or consider applicable legal or regulatory requirements and apply them to that particular assignment, so that there is you can mitigate the breach of code. uh, a new concept of public interest entity has been introduced in this 2019 Code of Ethics. It is, we call it as PI entities. So, and all the professional accountants who are, maybe providing services to a PI entity or are employed under a PI entity, there are enhanced independence requirements for clients in the new Code of Ethics. If you are maybe an auditor or giving some services to a PI entity, you have to follow an additional independence requirements which have been too huge, to maybe to follow. So PI entity has been defined as a listed entity or an entity which is defined by any regulation or legislation as a public interest entity, or for which the audit is required by regulation or legislation to be conducted in compliance with the same uh, independence requirements that apply to the audit of listed entities. Such regulation might be there by any relevant regulator, including an audit regulator. So any entity wherein the requirements of an listed entity have to be followed, that entity also has been prescribed as a PI entity. For the purpose of this definition, it may be noted that banks and insurance companies are also considered as public interest entities. Many fellow chartered accountants, especially in practice, have this annual thing of conducting statutory audit of branch of a bank. So bank branches are also considered as PI entities, and while auditing those kind of while doing or conducting bank audits, this particular independence requirements have to be compulsorily followed by the professional accountants. Other entities might also be considered by the firms to be public entities as has been prescribed. There is an additional, or again a new concept called as key audit partners that has been introduced in 2019 Code of Ethics. Who is a key audit partner? Key audit partner is an individual responsible for the engagement quality control review and other audit partners, if any, on the engagement team, who make key decisions or judgment on significant matters with respect to the audit of the financial statements on which the firm will express an opinion. So not only the signing partner, but other people who are making key decisions or judgments on the significant matters of an audit engagement are also considered as key audit partners. There is this particular term is relevant in the context of the partner rotation of a listed entity. Requirement restricting a key audit partner from being compensated for providing non-insurance services to audit clients. So a key audit partner cannot be compensated to even refer another entity or another chartered accountant entity or anyone to provide any services to them. It cannot be compensated at all. There is also a restriction on key audit partner to join the audit client, which is a public interest entity, if the independence is compromised. So that is why this terminology is also important, and that is why it is being highlighted. So what I've done is I've covered just a brief and broad snapshot, provided broad snapshot of what is 2009 Code of Ethics and now vis-a-vis what is 2019 Code of Ethics. And majorly, I have not covered the deferred provisions as much in detail. Preeti ma'am, do I also start with practical case studies, or?
Please continue with the case studies. So we will cover all the case studies, I believe.
Okay, so we cover all the case studies and then maybe, okay, cool. Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt, Preeti ma'am. There are some questions, couple of questions. Do you like to take it now or after the case study?
What I would suggest, lot of questions we get cover in our case studies only.
Okay.
So let us see first case studies, because these all are practical case studies.
Okay,
We will answer the questions. Okay.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah. So first case study is pertaining to certification of projections. So there are many questions, or there whether a chartered accountant can certify any projections. Yes, a chartered accountant can certify projections. What we have done is we have prepared a case law, maybe a practical case law as to how a day-to-day chartered accountant has done. So there was a chartered accountant. So in order to claim a benefit of section 115 BAB, ABC Private Limited was in process to incorporate a new subsidiary for its upcoming venture. Considering that substantial investment was required, it approached banks for funding the said venture. On the directions of bank, ABC Private Limited approached Mr. Sachin, who is a chartered accountant, to certify the futuristic financial projections of new venture. Mr. Sachin certified the futuristic financial projections and prepared by ABC Private Limited without mentioning the basis of such projections and without quoting UDIN. So whether he is in any breach of the Code of Ethics, we'll find out. So standard assurance engagement SAE 3400, the examination of prospective financial information is applicable to reports on projection and forecast issued on or after 1st April of 2007. So this particular standard assurance engagement is providing the basis as to how a chartered accountant needs to certify a projection. A chartered accountant can participate in preparation of.
Chintan, just hold 1 minute.
Yeah.
So friends, there are a lot of confusions in our mind. Clients is bringing please bank requires projections to be certified by a chartered accountant, but then now UDIN is compulsory. Earlier a lot of things were certified, but now whether we should apply UDIN or not, whether we can certify or not, because we have a lot of confusion in our mind. We don't know actually whether can we certify projections or not, right? And then once we certify, then whether we have to apply UDIN, we have to write UDIN on that or not. So friends, we can certify, but it is based on SAE 3400, which states certain things on the basis of which we can certify. So now I request Chintan to please give the basis on which what we have to mention while certification. So please Chintan, go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, as Preeti ma'am was mentioning, SAE 3400 has to be looked at. SAE 3400 provides and indicates that clearly in the report what is the source of information that is being certified, that how did a chartered accountant get or receive the source of information, what is the basis of the forecast, what is the management providing, and what is the basis the management has provided that forecast. It should obtain sufficient appropriate evidence that the financial information which has been provided is reasonable. What are the major assumptions that have been undertaken by chartered accountant while arriving at the forecast, that also has to be mentioned in the certificate. It also has to be mentioned that this particular certificate does not vouch for any accuracy of the forecasts. So you don't have to vouch for any accuracy. The certificate should be mentioning very clearly this particular fact. Same should also apply while projections are being made on the basis of hypothetical assumptions about future events which are not expected to take place as well. And the auditor does not vouch for accuracy of that particular fact. So as I mentioned, when audit is not done under particular auditing standards, assurance standards, etc., or certification is not being done under that particular or not followed by providing or under these particular standards, a misconduct will obviously happen under the code of ethics. CA is supposed to comply with the auditing standards while issuing the certification. In the instant case, certificate was issued without the compliance of any standards. Hence, he will be held guilty of misconduct falling within clause 7 and 9 of part 1 of second schedule. Not quoting a UDIN on audit report is also leads to misconduct under code of ethics. A member is expected to comply with the guidance or guidelines issued by the institute. Mentioning of UDIN on audit reports or certificate issued by auditor is mandatory. Hence, non-quoting of UDIN would be considered as a misconduct under clause 1 of part 2 of second schedule. We have a case law when a member was held guilty for not following guidelines in terms of member signing audit reports as to how many audits was done. Now we move on to second case study, which pertains to professional fees on percentage of turnover. The case goes like this. ABC and Associates was a CA firm providing auditing, taxation, valuation, liquidator services, fundraising services, etc. to its clients. Whether ABC is guilty of misconduct for below fees charged by it to its clients. First, in case of audit fees, ABC used to charge its clients based on the percentage of turnover of that respective client. ABC also charged one of its client fees at 1% of total amount of tax saved by the client under VSV scheme, irrespective of the result of assessment made by the concerned authorities. With regards to the fundraising services, ABC charges fees basis percentage of funds raised by the clients. While acting as a liquidator, ABC charges client fees basis percentage of realization or distribution of assets to the respective client. So what is the basic structure as to whether a chartered accountant can charge basis the percentage of a particular turnover? So as Preeti ma'am had already covered that, in terms of clause 10 of part 1 of our schedule of Chartered Accountant Act, a firm of chartered accountant or a chartered accountant is not permitted to charge fees on a percentage of turnover except in circumstances provided under Regulation 192 of CA Regulations 1988. As per Regulation 192 of CA Regulations 1988, no chartered accountant in practice shall charge or offer to charge. Not just charging, even offering to charge is not allowed, except fees in respect of any professional work which are based on percentage of profits or contingent upon findings of. So it is not allowed at all to charge or offer to charge also. So there are some few circumstances which have been listed in the regulation. So what are the exceptions as per Regulation 192 of CA Regulations Act 1988? In case of receiver or liquidator, the fees may be based on the percentage of realization or disbursement of assets. It is allowed to charge basing the percentage of turnover. In case of auditor of cooperative societies, fees may be charged on percentage of paid up capital or the working capital. In case of valuer for purpose of direct taxes and duties, fees may be based on the percentage of valuation of value of property valued. In case of management consultancy services, as may be decided by the resolution from time to time, fees may be based on percentage which may be contingent upon findings or result of work that has been done. In case of certain fundraising activities, fees may be based on percentage of funds raised. In case of debt recovery services, fees may be based on percentage. In case of services of cost optimization, fees may be based on percentage of benefit derived by providing such services. And any other services or audit as may be decided by council. So there are two services which I came across. One is acting as an insolvency professional. That particular insolvency professional can charge fees based on the percentage, and non-assurance services provided to non-audit client. So if a non-assurance service is provided to a non-audit client, you can charge fees based on the percentage. So now we will see based on the above examples and whether ABC Private Limited was can be held guilty or not. So first issue was he was charging audit fees basis the percentage of turnover. It is regarded as misconduct, straightforward, and hence it is not permitted. He has charged fees at 1%, at 1% on total amount of tax saved by client under VSV scheme, irrespective of result of assessment made. It is not regarded as misconduct. High Court of Himachal Pradesh in a 2005 case was held that fees charged is neither based on percentage of profits or result of the case. Hence, case will not fall within the scope of section 22, read with clause 10 of schedule. Fees raised for fundraising services, it is again not regarded as misconduct as it is covered by the exception under the regulation 192. Liquidation fees charge basis percentage, again it is not a misconduct as it is again exception under regulation 192 of CA Regulations Act. CA had arranged accounting bills raised by 16 parties amounting to rupees 14.09 crores and made entries which were not genuine. Commission was charged, blah blah blah. Basically arranging for fake bills. Obviously, it will be held. This particular thing will be held as guilty of professional and other misconduct, and it will be a part. It is falling within the scope of clause 10 of part 1 and clause 2 of part 4 of the first schedule. So this was pertaining to percentage of fees that is charged by the chartered accountant, whether it can be done or not. Third case study is pertaining to incorrect certification. So a lot of times, certification is being done, but it is not done in an appropriate manner or process is not being followed. So we'll again have some live example. Mr. Pappu, who is a director of Hari Private Limited, with a malified intention, informed Mr. A about resignation of 2 directors from the company. Mr. A, who certified Form DIR 12 for filing ROC, without verifying of resignation letter, certified that particular board resolution. Thereafter, Hari Private Limited approached Mr. A to certify the present shareholding and the directorship of the company for submission to bank for creation of charge. Mr. A asked his article assistant to prepare certificate based on last year. Fortunately or unfortunately, that article assistant failed to give effect of that resignations of directors and certificate was blindly signed by Mr. A. Bank wrote several letters to Mr. A that there is a discrepancy between director detail as per the certificate and as per register of companies. But Mr. A did not reply to the bank. So whether we have to assess that Mr. A is guilty of any professional misconduct. So first issue, when filing of director details with ROC without board resolution. So he certifying ROC documents without board resolution results in a gross negligence on part of CA and it brings a disrepute to the profession. So gross negligence is one of the clauses in part 2 of the schedule, one of the schedule. So he will be obviously held as guilty under that particular provision. Mr. A relied on article assistant for preparation of certificate, which resulted in a gross error. So employer Mr. A made implicit reliance on certificate prepared by article assistant without giving effect to resignation of directors. Since he blindly relied on work of article assistant without verification, he is considered as guilty of misconduct. So on day-to-day basis, as chartered accountants, we are, burdened with so much work, so much compliances, so many things that we cannot even, I cannot even list. But when such small certificates or anything is done, we blindly rely on these article assistants, and we other things we do very fantastically. We do audit very properly, we do everything very properly. But these kind of gross negligence, even one gross negligence will lead to misconduct charge, and threat and provide a threat to that chartered accountants membership. So it has to be ensured that all these things are being taken care of by a particular chartered accountant. He also failed to verify certificate in spite of repeated inquiries provided by bank. So there was a case law in case of Sri Gopal Shukla, wherein bank had made several attempts to approach chartered accountant for discrepancy in the certificate. However, same was not replied back to the bank. So the chartered accountant maybe refused or did not even care to reply to the bank. Since he failed to reply within reasonable time, he was considered as guilty of professional misconduct. So I think case study 4, yeah. I'm done, Preeti ma'am. I think this case study you are taking. Over to you, ma'am.
So now next case study, it is about advertisement. What all advertisements a chartered accountant is allowed to do. So we have prepared, we'll cover a lot of things in this advertisement case study. So XYZ company, chartered accountants have completed 25 years in profession in service, and they want to celebrate this silver jubilee of their completion of 25 years in a grand way. And for that, on the occasion of this silver jubilee celebration, they decided to shift its office to a new premises. And celebrations, silver jubilee and shifting of new office were planned on a large scale, and hence XYZ and company decided to send invitations to their clients, friends, relatives, reputed people from across various industries, and so on and so forth. So the firm also decided to give full page advertisement in leading newspaper about the same. So now they have done all those efforts for celebration, so that they want to celebrate in a grand way. So if Chintan, if you can switch over to next slide, then this invitation and paper advertisement drafted by this firm XYZ contain information about their celebration, the news about their shifting to new premises also, and they also mentioned certain things like they mentioned about the services rendered by highlighting specialized services. For example, they highlighted some areas, say international taxation, and out of 10 services they have mentioned all services and highlighted few services in which they were specialized. Then information about various books authored and written by their partners were also mentioned over there. Then to mark a silver jubilee of the firm, a special logo they created and they designed, and they also published this special logo on their invitation card and paper advertisement. And they already mentioned, apart from that, clients, they send invitations to various industry companies from various industries, and relatives and non clients also. Slide. So further reminders were also sent to all invitees. They sent, a month before these invitation cards, and a day before they sent messages, SMS, to all these invitees. reminders to come on that auspicious day of celebration. A special video was prepared by depicting the 25 years journey of the firm and highlighting its achievements. And this video they also sent through WhatsApp and various social media to all these invitees. An XYZ company also paid extra amount to get new address and new contact details printed in yellow pages and telephone directory. And in specialized way, they have seen that their details, address, and everything is printed in bold and in highlighted manner. So now whether this XYZ company is guilty of any of the professional misconduct, what they have mentioned done for their silver jubilee celebration. So we will see one by one. So sending invitation card for silver jubilee celebration to clients and non-clients. So when you are sending to clients, it is allowed. But if you are sending to non-clients, means in your mind what they will become your clients, so you are doing solicitation of work, so it is a misconduct. So misconduct as per how in as per clause 6 and 7 of part 1 schedule 1, because card even contain information about the services rendered by the firm, and such cards were even sent to person with whom there was no professional relationship. So High Court also upheld the order of the council. So this is a clause in volume 3 which is mentioned. You can detail refer to that case law. Then the card highlighted about the specialization services of the firm, which is also not allowed. So if you see this journal, this case law is also given even in volume 3 also, you will see it is highlighting the specialized service, whether it is in card or any other, it is not allowed. Next slide. Then full page advertisement in newspaper having detailed services rendered. So as such advertisement of silver jubilee or golden jubilee celebrations are allowed, but the services should not be highlighted. So advertisement is allowed. Okay, here the firm XYZ had completed 25 years and congratulations, thanks to our clients, and all the normal advertisement is allowed for completion of X number of years in the newspaper. But highlighting the services and giving services in the newspaper is not allowed as per Code of Ethics, and it is misconduct as per clause 6. So advertisement put was a noticeable one, and if soliciting of work is allowed, the independence and forthrightness of chartered accountant is discharge of duties cannot be maintained. So the case law GP Agarwal is also mentioned over here. Again, information about books written by the partners and mentioning the details along with the books written by the partners is also cannot be done. Yeah, the member in practice cannot indicate a book or article authored, contributed, or published accountant. In practice he can mention the name of a person, but the firm name is not allowed by that person to be printed in the article. Next. Designing a special logo, printing it on invitation and newspaper advertisement is not allowed. It is a misconduct as per clause 7. Use of special logo is not allowed. Only we can use CA logo, which is given by the ICI, that CA green and then blue tick is there. That is only allowed. Further, in that logo also, we have to see that same color combination, blue, and that same ink type and same color combination should be there. It cannot be in some different color also. Then sending reminder through SMS. As such, soliciting work through SMS is not allowed and is considered as a professional misconduct in terms of clause 6 and 7 of schedule 1 part 1, and other misconduct in terms of clause 2 of part 4 of first schedule with read with section 22 of CA Act 1949. So sending reminders to SMS or sending to non-client also the services, giving the services and approaching to the non-clients along with the details of services is not allowed. Next slide please. Then preparing a special video depicting 25 years journey is misconduct as per clause 6. Since party was to be attended by both clients as well as non-clients, preparing a special video highlighting the journey of the firm would tantamount to soliciting of the work. These all are judgments. Actually, these all are case laws. From that we have made these case studies. Then pay extra to get new address and new contact details printed in yellow pages and telephone directory. So you can always give your details in the telephone directory, but in a specialized manner it is not allowed. So getting name published in a telephone directory is permitted, but making a special request or paying additional amount to highlight the number in the directory is not permitted. Further, name must be published in chartered accountant section and also only in directory of a city in which the firm belongs to. It must be in normal letters. Further, publishing number and address in yellow pages if results in advertising, it is not allowed. So it is only in a chartered accountant column specifically if that directory is not having a specific CA column, and if it tantamounts to advertising, then it is not allowed. Again, you cannot offer additional amount and get it printed in a special characters or special highlighted manner. So it has to be normal in CA. Like in ICI journal also a CA column comes, accordingly you have to mention and give it like that only. Next slide please. Then issuing printed circulars highlighting professional attainments and issuing circulars letter to other chartered accountants. Circulation of letters to small group of clients for soliciting work or to persons who are likely to require services of a CA is prohibited. And we have also given the case laws, one can refer to that. Then advertisement in newspaper seeking work from other professional or advertisement for soliciting clients under box number in the newspaper is prohibited. Next slide. Then highlighting in expertise in letters is strictly prohibited, which is not allowed. All your expertise in, you mention the service, further you highlight also is prohibited. Writing letters to company highlighting the expertise in various areas is prohibited. Then announcement in newspaper about changes in the constitution of partnership or address, etc. is permitted. It is in the general interest, so it is permitted. However, it should be limited to the bare statement of the facts, and not, it should not tantamount to soliciting work, or it should give the impact that by giving that advertisement, giving that information, it should be in information way. It should not tantamount to solicitation of the work. Then application for empanelment for allotment of audit is permitted. However, but one cannot make roving, regular inquiries whether that such a panel is maintained or what. So application for empanelment of allotment of audit is permitted. Tenders, responding to tenders is permitted. However, we have a specific council guidelines dated 7th April 2016, which is mentioned, in which it is specifically mentioned that if you are responding to any tender, it is allowed if and only if in that minimum amount of fees is, it is only for chartered accountants, and minimum amount of fees is mentioned in that tender. So friends, if you are responding to the tender which is only meant for chartered accountant service, and where fees, minimum fees is not mentioned in that case, and if you are responding to it, it is the member is guilty of misconduct. Further friends, if a work is open to chartered accountant as well as other professional, for say cost accountants also it is open, and in that case if minimum fees is not mentioned, in that case a member can respond even if minimum fees are not mentioned. I hope this is clear. Next slide. Then publication of books or articles is permitted. So in that article, in that particular magazine or a particular professional journal, you have to mention only name, your name. That member who is writing that name, the firm name should not come. Issue of greeting cards and invitations is permitted, and it can be sent only to the clients, relatives, and friends. And designation CA and the name of the firm is also permitted. Any other professional designation, status, and qualification, etc., is not permitted. Is not permitted. Further, you should be able to say, prove that he is a, it should not happen. You are just sending to someone to whom you is of making them in a prospective client. It should be either in that category of friends, relatives, and clients. Then classified advertisement in journal, newsletter is allowed, but only in the journal or newsletter of the institute and not otherwise. Giving public interviews is permitted. However, name of the firm can be mentioned, but due care needs to be taken. It should not highlight the firm name, and solicitation of work should not happen. Next slide. Photograph is permitted. However, only that passport size photograph can be is allowed on the website. And however, no payment is made for such in other publication also. I was talking about the website, how what should be the size of photo on the website of the firm. However, otherwise the photographs are permitted, provided no payment is made for such publication and no reference to the name of the firm is given. Then signboard of the office is like permitted, but use of glow sign or light should not be done given the effect. Next slide. So CA designation along with name of a chartered accountant firm can be used on the greeting cards or invitations like marriage, inauguration of office, provided such greeting cards or invitations sent to only clients, relatives, and friends. Then member in practice engaged in teaching, coaching activities in accordance with the general or specific permission of the council should be obtained from advertising of such coaching, as it may amount to indirect solicitation of work. So you have to take the right to the institute and take the permission for advertisement of this coaching, if you are into coaching field and advertising your coaching classes. Next slide, please. Then network other than those registered with ICAI like BNI are not allowed. So it is specifically clearly mentioned by this new code of ethics. You cannot become the member of any network which is not registered with the ICAI. So one such example is BNI network. Then logo, as I already mentioned, use common logo. For you cannot you have a separate logo of the firm. Only ICI logo is to be used on letterheads and all wherever you are sending by email or by printed manner on letterheads and envelopes and everywhere. Then sponsoring activities not allowed. However, if you wish, you want to give some amount to Churchgate CP Study Circle for the activities. You can give to the study circle or institute or branch or regional WRC level or any other region. So sponsor, you can sponsor to the POU, that is POU of the ICEI. So CSR activities are allowed with prefix CA. So you can do CSR activities, you can write CA, but form cannot do. You can do in your personal capacity. Sharing of educational video allowed, but reference of CA form should not be given in that. So you lot of nowadays in this pandemic, lot of chartered accountants are giving, doing taking recording of the video and uploading in various social media. But friends, it should be educational video, and you should not advertise of your services what you are providing or your firm also. The firm name also should not come in the video. The contact numbers should not be there in the video. And this way only, it should be educational video only, and then only you can upload on the social media and get it there. Then movie, TV credits allowed, not movie. If we see, movie, so in that chartered accountant name is mentioned in all the movies. So in that it is allowed. However, it should be in the same size in which the names of others are mentioned. It should not be in some different type or different letters or special characters. Next slide, please. Again, size of sign mode appropriately visibility is allowed. Glow signs, neon signs are not allowed in the signboards. Printing vision and values behind visiting cards are not allowed. Expression of ISO certified on letterheads, visiting cards are not allowed. Then photo is not allowed on visiting cards. Then WhatsApp messages about services rendered are not at all allowed. Next slide. Sorry, website and content on the website. So there are specific guidelines of the institute in relation to website, in which the para 3 and 4 prescribes that CA forms or CAs should ensure that none of the information contained on the website to be circulated on their own or through email or by any other mode or technique except on a specific pull request. What is pull and what is push request? So if a member is talking to some of his friend, some of his friend is asking, is a not client also, and asking about what services you are providing, we want to have this services. So then that member in response, we have our website, either you can log on to that, or you give a specific request on a mail, so we'll share you the link of that website. Directly if you are sending the link of the website, so then it is not allowed, but it should be on the pull request, so that your friend is asking you, okay, what services, and in response you are sharing the link of the website, then it is allowed. It should be on the pull request. Website must run on a pull model and not on a push model. Passport size photo is allowed on the website. Names of the clients and fees charged cannot be given on the website. Next slide, please. Further, mention of catchwords, catchphrases, for example, excellence in particular area or firm having professional means integrity and etc. on the firm's website, letterheads, visiting cards is not permitted. CA can provide facility to the client to access its documents through logging in on firm's website, subject to the security and confidential measures. Further, CA logo background color on the website also cannot be changed. It should be in the same fashion, same type, same color as prescribed by the ICAI. Next slide. So I request Harsh now to please take the next case studies.
Yeah. Thank you, Preeti madam. Coming to case study number 5, which is also a very good practical case study, communication with previous auditor. So Mr. X, a chartered accountant, was approached by as a tax auditor under section 44AB of station. So client was in a hurry to file the return before due date. Mr. X accepted the audit and commenced the work within 2 days of it. While going through client financials, in the list of sundry creditor, fees of previous auditor was shown payable. Mr. X did not check that how the fees was paid. Before signing the tax audit report, he sent a communication to previous auditor under certificate of posting without any acknowledgement. So in this case study, let's see what all misconducts he has occurred by not communicating to previous auditor, and also there are some other misconducts. Next slide, Chintan. So the first issue is communication to previous auditor was not done before the acceptance of audit. Now it is very clearly stated according to the clause 8 that a communication is supposed to be given to the previous auditor before accepting the assignment. Let's understand what was the objective of communicating to the previous auditor. I mean, the professional courtesy is obviously one of the reasons, but other than that, the previous auditor is also supposed to ascertain whether there are any circumstances which will warrant not to accept this assignment by the new auditor. Also, if there are any safeguard, also the new auditor has to safeguard his own interest while accepting such new assignment for because of any changes which has been done in the client's business. which will hamper his own independence or his own assignment or professional responsibility. The second issue was positive evidence of communication was not there. Now, mere posting of a letter to a previous auditor is not allowed. This was even decided by the disciplinary committee in the cited case on this slide, which was even upheld by High Court of Rajasthan, that not only posting but an acknowledgement of the posting is supposed to be taken by the incoming auditor of the communication given to the previous auditor. Coming to next slide, he accepted the audit where undisputed audit fees was not paid to previous auditor. As per the council guidelines of 2020, that is the revised council guidelines, it is strictly said that incoming auditor should not accept audit assignment when there is a undisputed audit fees outstanding of chartered accountant. First of all, what is undisputed audit fees is the audit fees which is taken in the profit and loss account and which in the financial statements and which are authorized by both auditor and the board of directors or and the management of the company. That is an undisputed audit fees. If that fees is not payable to previous auditor, incoming auditor should not accept that assignment. The only exception to this rule is for sick units. If the company is a sick unit, in that case, an incoming auditor can take appointment of the as an auditor, subject to getting an NOC from the previous auditor. What is the sick unit? The explanation to that council guidelines of 2020 defined what is a sick unit, and accordingly, this exception will be applicable only to sick units. Coming to next slide, there are some other factors relating to communication with auditor. See, first of all, this communication should be given for all assignments, not only for statutory audit, for even for tax audit, for GST audit, for stock audit, for majority of the all the audit functions. This communication should be given to the previous auditor. Now, in case of special audit or bank audits, the professional brothers might have experience in the last April month of 2020, when there were condition of complete lockdown and social distancing. Still, we were supposed to give bank audit, give the report of bank audit, branch audit to within the restricted timeline. So when the timeline is so restricted that waiting for the acknowledgement of the communication to the previous auditor is actually very short, and you have to complete the assignment within a dedicated timeline. In such cases, a conditional acceptance should be given, stating clearly to the client that this is just a conditional acceptance. It will be given as a final acceptance only when I'll get the NOC from a previous auditor. Now, coming to that, this NOC term, since last many decades, we have coined this term out of our practice that we should get an NOC from a previous auditor. What is this term and how did this came? See, first of all, Code of Ethics doesn't compel or doesn't mandate to get an NOC. What is required is only to get an acknowledgement of the posting of the communication given to a previous auditor. If at all he has some kind of a known objection for the appointment of an incoming auditor, he has his reasonable rights to be heard in AGM or in such meetings where the specific rights are given to previous auditor. But such NOC is not required. Third, a reasonable time period, as I said earlier, that a reasonable time period should be given, say 15 days or 30 days for getting an acknowledgement of this posting of communication. Fourth one would be short timeline given for acceptance of audit. As I said earlier, for special audit or bank audit, the conditional acceptance is supposed to be given by the incoming auditor. A new change in the revised Code of Ethics has come that an additional duty has been casted on the previous auditor. Earlier, there wasn't any such duty on previous auditor. Every compliance was supposed to be done by an incoming auditor. To provide all the known information and facts to the incoming auditor, which in his opinion, in the previous auditor's opinion, is supposed to be given to the incoming auditor to have a free and frank opinion on the assignment. Just to say that at the time of transition from a previous auditor to incoming auditor, as we all are professional brothers, there should be some kind of synchronizing and going hand to hand by previous auditor and incoming auditor. Also, many changes which are made in the revised Code of Ethics are Earlier in 2009 Code of Ethics, communication methods were only two. That was, first was registered acknowledgement due, and second one was by giving a communicating by hand delivery. Now registered AD means giving it by a registered post. Mind you, courier is not allowed. Only registered AD. And second one was by hand delivery to the previous auditor. In the revised Code of Ethics, there are two more methods communicating with previous auditor. The third one is a very welcome change, that is communicating via registered email ID of the previous auditor. Now registered email ID means the email ID of previous auditor which is registered with institute, not any other professional email ID. And the fourth one, a very revolutionary change in our profession, is UDIN. So communicating through UDIN will be the next big thing in our profession. Although for this kind of a communication, the guidelines have not been issued; they are still in the frame. Probably council might come with it within a year. So now in revised Code of Ethics, there are 4 ways of communicating with previous auditor. Some other factors, some other comparison between old and revised Code of Ethics are in case of where the premises is being logged, where acknowledgement comes as the premises is being logged of the previous auditor. In such cases also, the revised Code of Ethics says that the communication received as premises being logged will also be deemed as delivered communication to the previous auditor. Second one, firm not found at the given registered address. Even in such cases, it will be deemed as the communication has been given to the previous auditor, except that if the previous auditor, if the retiring auditor proves that it was not served or he was not responsible for such non-service. As far as certification is concerned, earlier there was only communication was considered as a healthy practice. Now it has to be dispensed with. Short time limit for accepting the audit. As I said earlier, the conditional acceptance is given in the revised Code of Ethics, where you have to properly communicate to the client that this is only a conditional acceptance. Coming to the last case study, that is also a very practical case study. A CA in practice engaged in other business. Mr. A chartered accountant in practice, was the Karta of HUF. In his capacity as a Karta, he was undertaking derivative transactions on stock market. He also took sub-brokership with on stock. In this case, let's see what all misconducts or what all issues have occurred for this practicing chartered accountant. So first thing, Chintan, next slide. The first thing, why practicing chartered accountant are restricted to do other businesses is to keep the dignity of the profession, to keep the integrity of the profession, so that the practicing chartered accountant should not get overly involved in other businesses. First was carrying out derivative transaction. Now, derivative transaction is actually a proper business, a full-fledged business. There are certain guidelines which have been given in volume 2 of Code of Ethics for HUF, where a council is giving a general permission and a special permission for the for some defined business processes which HUF can conduct. So carrying out a derivative transaction is actually a proper business, a full-fledged business, for which a prior approval and a special approval was supposed to be taken from a council, which is not taken by the concerned member here. So that is the first misconduct. Secondly, obtaining a sub-brokership from a stockbroker. Again, it is a proper business which is supposed to be done only before having a prior special approval from a council. In the cited case on the slide which you can see, there was no prior permission which was taken from a council, and thus in this case council upheld that there was a professional misconduct of the said chartered accountant. Coming to some HUF guideline in the revised Code of Ethics. These are actually drafted in volume 2 of Code of Ethics. The first one is that any business of HUF, it should be a resultant of inheritance, succession, or a partition. That means HUF on its own cannot start any business. the karta of the HUF, which is a practicing chartered accountant, he himself cannot start any business. If it has been resultant of any inheritance or succession, then it can be done without taking a prior approval. Only after a specific and a prior approval of the council. I said it earlier that if there are some businesses which have been specifically defined in the code of ethics, for which a specific and a prior approval has to be taken. For other general approval, a prior approval is not required. Third one is very important, that a practicing chartered accountant who is a karta of HUF, he should not be actively involved in that business. Say for example, signing any checks or signing any documents of the business of HUF, a chartered accountant is not permitted to do any of such roles. Attestation functions are not permitted by such practicing chartered accountant. Many queries were raised against council that an HUF is only into investing business, is only investing into real estate or some kind of investments. So can a HUF can do such activities of investment? So clarification is given by council that whenever a HUF who is doing a family business will be within the limit prescribed by council if he makes the investment from the funds pertaining to HUF only. A practicing chartered accountant, a member cannot chip in his own funds in the HUF and then start the investment activity. The fund has to be only of HUF. Some other condition, some other criteria of chartered accountant in practice who are under other businesses. Next slide. Sorry, next slide. Yeah. CA in practice who are eligible to become a director of a company, say independent director or any other director. So what all things are supposed to be kept in mind? As far as managing director or whole-time director is concerned, a prior permission of a council is required. A general permission will not be allowed. A promoter or a promoter director is allowed as per code of ethics. No need of prior special approval should be taken by council. A term is defined in the code of ethics as a director simpliciter. It was already defined in the earlier code of ethics. Now it has been a little clarified that who is a director simpliciter. A director simpliciter means a director who is not a managing director or a whole-time director. That means a clarification is given that who is director simpliciter is required to attend the board meetings only. He will not be paid any remuneration except the sitting fees for attending the board meetings. He will be devoting his time for the company only to attend board meetings and not for any other purpose. So he cannot be involved in the day-to-day function or get actively involved in the business of the company. Is as good as an independent director, not exactly an independent director, but as good as independent director. So for such director simpliciter, no specific or a prior permission is required from a council. Coming to next slide, obviously I said it earlier that a CA in practice was entitled to manage the finance of the company, to close deals with outsiders and other such managerial duties is not allowed. He cannot be actively engaged in the business of a company. Such misconducts generally happen in small closely held companies or private limited companies where a CA in practice becomes a director and knowingly or unknowingly he gets into attestation functions and gets into the decision making of the company, and that's how a professional misconduct has is generally occurred for such kind of CA members. Again, many queries were raised against the council that if a director simpliciter is coined for companies, can a such role be defined for LLPs? So clarification is given by council that no equivalent of director simpliciter in LLP. A member in practice cannot become a partner or a designated partner for an LLP which are not under professional work. Now, obviously, for professional LLP, now we all know that many CA firms are getting into LLP format. So, for a professional LLP, a CA can become a partner or a designated partner, but other than professional LLP, it cannot become anything, neither a partner nor a designated partner. So that's all from our side, and we will be happy to take any questions which are there from study circle. Over to you, Preeti ma'am, or to the organizers.
Yeah, and whatever Harsh has said for particular this CA in practice uh, topic point, in that I would like to add that now by the council it is also CA in corporate form of practice is also allowed. See, as such in any company you can become a director simpliciter and cannot sign. But now CAs can also do the corporate form of practice, and in that case, other than audit and audit or certification, other services you can provide through your corporate form of practice. So it is management consultancy services, and there are about 20 odd services which are financial services and other advisory services which can you can do, and in a corporate form of practice. And for that you have to actually take the name approval of name from first in CA Institute, and then you can form a company under directions and regulations of Ministry of Corporate Affairs, and you can do a practice in the form of corporate. And that is what I just thought it is now allowed, so I should add to that. So we can take the questions now, whatever raised by the participants.
Okay. Yeah, I will start one by one. First question is, to what extent is an auditor required to know the various laws impacting an organization other than pronouncement of ICAI accounting standards, Ind AS, income tax, and GST?
Harsh, you would like to take this?
Yeah, yeah. So to what extent, sir, I would say that professional competence and due care is one of the fundamental principle of a chartered accountant. I mean, just to give an example, a person doing bank audit, we cannot say that I just know accounting standard, income tax, and GST, but I have not read any RBI guidelines or I am not aware of that. It is not allowed to be precise. Even a person doing, say, real estate audit, he cannot say that I am not aware about any act of RERA or any act of MOFA. So obviously, I mean, any law or regulation in which a particular business is supposed to be get registered or is supposed to be done as per that guidelines, a chartered accountant is supposed to have the knowledge of that business, knowledge of that regulations, and also that law. So I mean, accounting standard, income tax, GST is obviously our basic what do you call knowledge. But over and above that, obviously there are many laws, many commercial laws, many allied laws, even revenue laws, which are actually not into our main domain, but which, any particular chartered accountant who is practicing under the same business under the same line, he is supposed to have the knowledge of those laws.
I
Even
would
now
also like to add.
even the NOCLAR, which has been deferred. So in that, member who is auditing that particular entity, he has to sign the NOCLAR, which is whatever applicable laws, rules, regulations are there, he is certifying that he has gone through that. Yes, Chintan, you are
Yeah,
saying
I was
something.
also adding that same point that NOCLA, which has been deferred, also requires us to not only know the laws which are impacting the financials. We are also need to ensure that other laws, even environmental laws, if the entity is under environmental, all these things. So even all those laws which maybe impacts the going
Entity is
concern or
compliant.
whatever has to be seen by the chartered accountant and not
That
just
entity has
restricting itself
complied with
to.
all applicable laws.
Yes.
Next question, please.
Yeah. If a firm is a member of a network, then can the firm share the audit files of the client for peer review by the network?
Peer review, it is allowed to share, no?
Okay. So I'll go to next question. Is the phrase management responsibilities defined?
Sorry.
Is the phrase management responsibilities is defined by our code of ethics?
It is not defined per se, or there's a section mentioned what is management responsibility. Management responsibilities mainly is uh, taking key decisions pertaining to a firm or a particular client. A chartered accountant can assist to uh, the management how to come to a particular answer or particular this thing,
Decision.
but he cannot take the management decisions. They can assist them to take the decisions, but they cannot take management decisions. And this is how you want to do, how you go. So this is that is not allowed under the term management responsibilities. You can give them due dates. This is how it's to due dates. It is not management responsibility. Admin work is not a management responsibility. Filing returns on the basis of the information provided is not a management responsibility. But if you are giving them value addition and giving them answers as to this is how a transaction should be structured and this and that, that may lead to management responsibility. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to next question. Nuclear has been deferred, but standard on auditing 250 still requires auditor to comply with the SA 250, which deals with the nuclear. Please share your views on the same.
Harsh?
Yeah, sir. I mean, see, I would just give a broad answer. The standards on auditing are notified under Companies Act. So, if at all there is a difference between SA and Code of Ethics, so SA will SA will reveal over Code of Ethics. So, in your case, where the question is correct that as per SA 250, there was a requirement that under any other law or regulation, if there is any kind of a irregularity, then it is a responsibility of a chartered account of an auditor to report in his audit report. So obviously that responsibility was always there as per standards on auditing. But the difference between SA and Code of Ethics is that SA is applicable only on the audit functions, whereas NOCLAR is applicable to everyone, even for a chartered accountant who is an employee of a company who is under what we generally call as industry. Even for them also NOCLAR is applicable. Like just for an example, say whistleblower policy, what we generally call in the corporate terms, even that is one kind of a NOCLAR, that you are supposed to give a report on a non-compliance of any law or regulation. I think even Chintan can add on this.
Yeah, Harsh, I think you have covered everything. Nuclear right now was, as it was envisioned, it was only applicable for audit clients and not a non-audit clients. But globally, internationally, ISBA and IFAC, and they have in fact said that professional accountants should adhere to nuclear provisions for all the assignments, including the non-audit assignments. So we are maybe thinking that maybe in coming years even that will be implemented and adopted by ICAI.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, next question is, are subsidiaries, associates, and joint ventures of listed entity considered as PI entities?
Yes, related entities of PI entities are also considered as PI entities.
Okay.
Next.
Yeah. Is mentioning of one's education qualification and work experience on a social platform like LinkedIn and Facebook are permissible?
So on visiting card, it is specifically no, on visiting card also is, but in newspaper advertisement, what we have seen is not permissible. However, we have the views like as such in social media. We need to check. Harsh, you have anything on that to say?
Madam, what we generally do is it is whether it is a pull medium or a push medium. So
Correct.
LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. So we have to ascertain whether are they pull medium or a push medium. So if they are push medium, so nothing will be allowed. But if you say that these social media platforms are pull medium, then maybe one can put all those education qualifications, etc. on the. So one needs to decide whether LinkedIn is a pull
LinkedIn
medium
is
or
a
a push
pull
medium.
medium. No, it is not push medium as such. So if you want to search anything, you have to type and then get the details. No.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. I don't want to comment whether LinkedIn is a pull medium or a push medium. because once I comment something and so one needs to take care. That's what I wanted to understand, say.
Perfect.
So can I go to the next question?
Yes.
Yeah. Whether UDIN can be obtained then before signing, then print the same on the audit report and then sign.
So it is a simultaneous thing, and it is generated, mentioned on the report, and then taken print immediately, generally, and then it is signed.
Okay.
That is generally followed by all auditors, what I understand.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll go to next question. Can a CA in practice be a chairman of an audit committee of a listed company?
Yes,
Yes, it is
yes, he
allowed.
can. See the audit, the chair,
There is no requirement to take permission also in this case.
the chairman of audit committee, as per Companies Act, is supposed to be an independent director. Independent director is actually a director simpliciter. So there is no specific requirement of getting a special permission from council.
Okay. So, I think this one is covered regarding social media. Can we write a CA in a social media before our name or also any other media? I
Yes.
think this has
Yes,
been
yes.
covered earlier in that social media case only. So yeah, that's it. We are done with the questions.
So I think
Okay.
we have covered all the questions, and then also later on also, if you feel any question are there, or anything is there, you can connect with either of any of three of us anytime, and we will see that all your questions later on also are satisfactorily answered. So we really thank you, all of three of us. I thank on behalf of even both the panelists also for giving us opportunity to present our all our learnings. We are also learning whenever study circle gives us the opportunity to upgrade our knowledge on this topic, and it is a really great learning for us also, so that we are prepared and present to all of you. Really thank you to Dilip Bhai and all the members of study circle for giving this opportunity.
Thank you, Preeti. Whatever Preeti does, she gives her best shot, and this is one of the more example for that. Frankly, today's attendance, Preeti, is 85 members have attended this event. That is a record for us because last time 81 members have attended, and today 85 members have attended.
And
So
majority
yes,
were there till end, what I have observed.
yes. So may I request Manish to propose a hearty vote of thanks to the panelists and Preeti.
Good evening, friends. Thank you very much, CA Preeti Savla ji, CA Chintan Rambia ji, and CA Harsh Dedia ji for sharing their knowledge and in a brief manner. And today's topic is very important as far as practice is concerned. And in day-to-day affairs, usually we all face such type of issues, and many. Uh, on many topics, member face dilemma, but today's panel discussion will help, I'm sure, to all the members to resolve their queries and doubts. And with this, I would like to say that ethics is very important in our life, and CA is symbol of trust, basically, in our day-to-day life. And it is said that professional ethics makes the professional reliable. So whatever we certify or whatever we say in our day-to-day life, usually nobody doubts on those things. Even if a small discussion is happening and a chartered accountant is involved in that discussion, so everybody is peacefully, silently listen to the views of a CA, and generally they take it into the consideration of CA's views. Similarly, whatever certification and documentation we certify, generally all accept on the face generally nobody doubts that it is once CA certifies, then it is accepted that whatever is stated in that documents is true and fair. There is no ambiguity in it. So we need to be very responsible while certifying the things, as well as we need to look into the matters which affects our fellow members also. Because if we do something unethical things, then ultimately it affects our image, our profession only. So I, with this, I propose a hearty vote of thanks to all the panelists and all the members of our study circle group. Uh, uh, Thank you very much. Good night. Goodbye.
Good night.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And God bless.